Okay, kids, this is chapter 6, An Uninvited Guest. After Dan left, Ray pulled me aside to talk. He grinned and then said, "The urn is here." I grinned back. "Where did you hide it?" He answered, "Moonin has it hidden in one of the nests in the rafters." "Perfect," I said. "Fleur will love it." He fidgeted and hugged his tail tight to his body. "I don't get it," he said. "Why are you inviting squirrels to the show?" I told him, "Because it'll be fun, and having friends in the trees will help the show. The show must go on." He asked me, "You don't think one of them will betray us to the elder squirrels?" I said, "Not if we make it more fun not to betray us." He asked me, "You think we can?" I told him, "I do." Ray nodded. "Well, that's all right then." I told him we need to plan. Dan said he would meet us in the park tomorrow with his cousin. We split apart to call everyone to the Tower Chapel for a strategy meeting. I found Fleur preening her feathers on the sill of a stone in the wall. In the sill of a stone window in the wall. She nipped and plucked at her wing. I leaned against the column and watched. She paused and turned to see me. I smiled when she flew to me. She told me to go to the chapel and she would gather our friends. I thanked her for being such a good friend. She tilted her head and winked at me. I walked to the chapel with a spring in my step. My right hip hardly hurt at all. I rounded the corner to find a gray-backed squirrel standing in front of my chalkboard. He ran his claw over my drawing. I felt a chill of fear. He swiveled to face me. "Ah, Bern, I would like to speak to you." "Who are you?" "I am an elder." "Do elders have names?" I asked him. He wrinkled his muzzle at me. I crossed my paws and returned his silence with a double dose of my own. He lifted his chin and smoothed back his whiskers. "I am the key bearer of the second tunnels. My name was my father's and his father's for an age and 3/4. I am Croesus." "Look," I told him, "I am a bit busy. There was something you wanted to say to me?" He pointed at my drawing. "Yes. Don't do this." "Who told you?" I asked him. He said, "The wind tells us much." I flattened an ear with irritation. "Okay, I'll bite. Why shouldn't we do this?" "Animals will be hurt," he told me. I said, "We'll be careful." He walked up to me and whispered so close, I felt his breath on my whiskers. "Still, there will be suffering if you do this. Tell me, does the rat father know what you're up to? I wonder how he would feel about this, what with his coronation coming up and all." His what?" I wish I had said something snappy and smart, but that was all I had. Ray shouted, "Hey! Who are you?" Croesus narrowed his eyes, flattened his ears at me, and hissed. He spun, then disappeared down the nearest stairwell. Ray ran up beside me. "Who was that?" he asked. I shivered. Trouble. I waited until everyone had made it to the chapel before I recounted what happened with Croesus. The response from the others was to dismiss the warning. I couldn't shake the way he creeped me out. Jake dispelled the mystery of Croesus knowing my name. Jake had been gossiping that morning in the park with his bird cronies. I decided to never tell a bird anything that I wouldn't say with a bullhorn on a busy street corner. They would tell anyone anything. We split up the acts. Hugan, Jake, and Elwood would assemble the clowns and choreograph their acts. Flora would organize the dancers and their costuming. Ray, Dan, and I would map out the daredevilry and daring do. All of us would defer to Munin, who would be building the sets and machines for all of us. We had a crack team of gatherers who would add our wants to their lists. Everyone stood to leave. I raised my paws. "Wait! How are we going to set up without the squirrels or the rat father or London Animal Control catching us? Who's going to gather the food? How long does the show need to last? Are we just doing this once? What are we really doing? When are we doing it? Ray raised his right paw. I pointed at him. He tabulated his answers, raising a claw with each one. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Well, think of something. We can get the smaller clowns to gather the food in between the acts. The show will last as long as we get away with it. We do it when we want food. We're having a laugh, and that's what we're doing. Okay? Fleur answered my last question. The show will go on when we are ready and the acts are perfect. I refuse to perform until we have something so wonderful it will change those who see it. A moment of wonder wrapped with magic and a little liberal dose of daring do. The meeting broke apart with a rousing cry, "To daring do!" Jake stopped me before I left. He smiled and shuffled his big webbed feet. He held out a small scarf. I took it from his wingtip. It was a silk aviator scarf with fringe. I ran my claws through the fringe. It was slippery and cool. I clenched it in my paw, confused. I looked at Jake. He winked at me. "A gift for our lead stunt rat," he told me. "Wow," I said. "Thanks, and thanks for wrangling the clowns." Elwood hooted. "Are you kidding me? It's the perfect gig for us. Most of our friends are clowns without makeup. We're just giving them jobs to do with all that natural talent." I laughed. I didn't want to say anything, but I've met your friends. They are a bunch of clowns. And we are lucky they're willing to work with us. I tied the scarf around my neck and modeled it for the twins. They clapped and whistled for me. I thanked them both again and watched them waddle away. I smoothed down my whiskers and picked up the edge of the scarf and nibbled it. The safety of my friends weighed heavily on me. What did I agree to? How dangerous was Croesus? I walked out of the chapel, up the stairs, and wended my way to the roof. The moon was an icy blue gem in the sky. Fleur weaved lazy circles above my head. She was exercising with low-altitude flights. The Raven Master, Frank, caught her flying too high and clipped her wings a little shorter. She was frustrated but determined to still fly. It was one of those things I admired about her. She wasn't going to let anything dry and boring like aerodynamics get in the way of her flying. I mentioned the laws of flight to her once during one of her visits. She gave me a look and replied, "Those venerable laws of flight you're talking about can't explain how a simple bumblebee flies. You trust your laws, I'll trust my intuition. And it says I can fly, clipped wings or not." She whirled and spun in the air. I laid on the edge of the wall with my forepaws behind my head. I took a big, deep breath of cold air. I could smell the Thames. Not always a good thing. But tonight I was in the mood to be reminded I was in London. Big Ben rang the hour. The noise swelled and faded. Fleur's swoops were timed perfectly to the tolling of the bell. She did a lazy spiral and landed beside me. We watched the moon. I sighed, then said, "I'm troubled. I want to trust all these great ideas. I want to trust in us pulling it off, but I'm scared." Fleur ruffled her feathers to get warm. "Any great undertaking is scary. If it was easy, any old rat would do it. New ideas take courage, Bern." "Courage or foolishness," I said. She laughed. "Maybe a mixture of both. Is Croesus's visit bothering you?" she asked me. I told her most definitely. That was the scariest squirrel I've ever met. They're not usually so feral, she finished my sentence. Yes, that is the perfect word for him. There was this unrestrained violence to him. It felt like if Ray hadn't said something when he did, Croesus would have bitten my throat out. "Really?" Fleur said. "As bad as all that?" I shrugged. She cawed with laughter. I smiled and smoothed my whiskers, embarrassed. She poked me. "He could have torn you limb from limb," she said. I laughed. "Or danced on my innards," I retorted. "Ha!" She looked at me for a second. "Or he could have erased the board." And I went, "Ooh, that would have been mean." She giggled. I laughed, and the laughter became hooting. We lay in the moonlight and laughed fearlessly at the night. We had no idea how serious things were about to get. Okay, that's it. That was chapter 6. Next is chapter 7, A Squirrel Squabble. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. You're just going to have to wait. Yeah, those were both really short chapters. Anyway, I hope that you're getting your homework done and you're taking care of yourselves because it's super, super important. I can't think of anything else to say. Tune in next week for A Squirrel Squabble, and I will try to get all these downloaded in time. And sleep well, kiddos. Bye.